My name is David Botero. We want to welcome you to your City Hall and the City Council chambers. You are in a position of power, which means you can ask the questions. And so before I introduce everyone, I can promise you this is probably the most important thing that I will do my entire week. And I have the privilege of not only introducing these fine gentlemen, but letting you know that we have a personal investment in working with you, hopefully educating you, but learning from you. And in my capacity working with community police, as a community policing coordinator, my job is to make sure that the public, especially our young public, is completely informed, invested, and involved in your city government, especially with respects to public safety. So today we're being blessed to have, and I mentioned earlier, these are very important people that are taking time to be with you. So we have our chief, your chief, Chief Thomas Carter, who's a Harrisburg City Police Chief. Round of applause.
Thank you.
He's accompanied by our captain, Captain Derek Moody. He's in charge of uniform police, the uniform police division. So all the police officers that are out there in uniform, he's making sure that they're out there safe, they're doing the paperwork and all that. So this is Captain Moody. And we are also blessed to have Officer Jeremy Christ, and he's an officer that walks the beat and is very involved in the community. And then, as I mentioned earlier, he has been involved with the Youth Build program since the beginning. He's going to see a lot of you, or you'll see a lot of him, because he's up in your area, at least in the 13th and Dairy area, pretty frequently. So that's a really good thing. Me growing up, I grew up learning if the principal knows your name, that's not a good thing. In this case, if the chief, captain, or the officer knows your name, that's a really good thing, because should anything happen to you, if you have a question, if you have a concern, you can go up to Officer Chris, Captain Moody, or Chief Carter and say, you remember me from Youth Build, and this is the time to network, to build your rapport, to get known, and to commit yourself to something good. We want to give it up to Officer Chris. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Carter and to address you.
Welcome, everyone here. I am Chief Carter, as you heard. I thank you for applauding all of us. It means an awful lot to have our young people here visiting with us and engaging us in conversation. As you all know, that this past summer has been a bad summer around the whole country for engagement with police officers and like citizens. But to let you know, that we sitting at this table, we work for you. We are sitting here because of you. We love to do our jobs, but the power that we have comes from you. To give you background, I'm from Harrisburg. I'm a graduate of Harrisburg High School. I am the first police chief in the city from Harrisburg and the first graduate of Harrisburg High School. And I grew up in the Uptown Harrisburg section. I play sports for Harrisburg High School. I love Harrisburg High School, and I do anything not only for Harrisburg High School students, but for any student, period, for any young people. My passion is to help out and to keep you from having contact with the criminal justice system, because every child deserves a chance, but I believe that all of God's children, we are created equal. Some of us just have a little bit more than others, but it doesn't make them any better than you. So when we apply the law here in Harrisburg, we apply it equally towards everybody, regardless of religion, race, or anything else, because you are all special in my sight, and you all deserve a chance to prosper, to grow up, not worrying about gun violence, about drugs, about walking down the street, and I understand, right now that we're living, through some tough times, but we are striving to make things better for you. So I don't want to take up too much time talking, because I can talk all day long. We have a half hour. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Captain Moody, and he's going to say some words to you. But, just thank you for being you. Thank you for being interested in education is everything. Education is something that no one can take from you. The old saying is that if you want to hide something from people of color, put it in a book. you know, because people of color don't read. That's what they used to say, you
Yeah.
know. You know, but let's break that cycle. Let's open up the books and let's get educated, you know, because you are the future here. And I really mean that. This is yours. This world is yours to control right now. And the smarter you are, the better things will be for everybody here. And, you know, you can pass on what you learn to your children so that we can break the cycle of violence. We can break the cycle of non-education. You know, there are so many things, you know, that we can start, but it starts with you people sitting right there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. No, I just wanted to touch just behind, as Chief Carter has said, it is truly my honor and privilege to be here and speak to you guys and girls. I'll throw that out a lot, guys, but just understand I mean guys and girls when I say that, so I don't want to put anything special there. But what a little bit about me, I moved here to Harrisburg in 1992. I got hired here as a young officer. I was 22 years old when I got hired. I moved here from West Philly in the Overbrook-Winfield section. I moved here with my wife, who was from North Philadelphia. She's currently a probation officer here at Dauphin County. She's an adult PO. And we have our children. We raised our children here in Harrisburg, not specifically in the city right now, but we're in the Harrisburg area. But it's important as a young officer, and as Officer Chris will speak to, the development and growth of your community. And officers grow with their community when they're not from here. So it's important for us to know who our youth are in our area, because it's easy to forget. So I applaud you guys for coming in and sitting here and talking to us. Hopefully we learn a little bit more about you. You learn a little bit more about us, because at the end of the day, we are people too. Sometimes people get confused because we wear a uniform and they think, well, you know, you the police, this and that and whatever, but we're people too at the end of the day. And it's good to have interaction like this. Sometimes people may just see us in our job function, which sometimes is very unpleasant. But there are times when we have pleasantries like such, when we're sitting here talking with you guys, and these are the things that you kind of build off. All right, it's important for us to rebuild the trust in our profession, and to understand that this isn't my job, this is my profession. And it's a job that I take very, very seriously. Obviously, if I didn't, I wouldn't be here right now with this agency. I grew up in a police background. My father was a Philadelphia police officer. My brother was Philadelphia Highway Patrol officer. I'm doing my dream job. So to me, it is important. But our profession has taken a hit, like any profession. You have your ups and downs, and we're in the downside right now. But it will change. Things will get better. But it's important, like we say, to talk and have a mutual respect and understanding for all. And as I grow older, I seem to look at things differently than when I was younger. And you guys will experience that as you get older too. So again, I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time, but I'm glad to be here. Hopefully I can answer your questions to your liking, but we'll see as we go. So I'm going to pass it on. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Officer Jeremy Christ. I've been on patrol here for 5 years in the city of Harrisburg. I grew up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the area. It's down a little bit south on 81 from here. I went to Cashews, it's Chambersburg Area Senior High School. I graduated, and I moved up here in 2000 when I was 18. I went to school at Central Penn College. If any of you are familiar with that, it's over in the Summerdale area, Enola. I graduated there with a bachelor's, and I had some odds and ends jobs in the area. Wasn't sure where I wanted to go with my life or what I wanted to do. And I actually saw a flyer for the Harrisburg Police that they were hiring. And I gotta say, that's the best decision I ever made. And that's the first thing I ever really looked at, and I said, this actually makes sense. This is the direction I want my life to go in. Because before that, I wasn't, you know, I got a degree, but I wasn't sure where to go. I didn't have a lot of guidance in my life. So I started here with the Harrisburg Police Department. I've been on patrol, and I've gotten the opportunity to do a lot of different things with the department. I've done forensics. I've been a part of the crisis response team. I've gotten involved in the SEED program with you guys. I'm here today to kind of learn about you guys a little bit more than anything. See what you guys want to do with your lives. Other than that, I don't have a big speech to go with. I mean, how do you follow up with that?
This is your opportunity now to open up with questions about their profession, their backgrounds, personal questions. You have the loudest mic in the city, talking to the most powerful people in the city. So,
I have a question. I actually want to become a police officer, so I wanted to know, like, what are the requirements?
Go ahead, John. Yeah, well, I think the first phase in becoming a police officer is that mental commitment to it, and you gotta structure like any job. You gotta figure out what you want to do and where you want to go with that, because it can be very frustrating at times. So once you mentally commit to it, and it can't be that you mentally commit because you saw something on TV. That's probably one of the, I know TV is entertaining and that's all it is, and just remember, it's entertainment. It's not supposed to be, that's how it's done. Some TV shows are pretty realistic, but the reality of it is as your desire in whatever profession you should choose, if any profession you choose has an opportunity to like do an internship or a ride along, that's where you should start doing that. You should lean towards that. You want to talk to people that do the job. You want to talk to people both sides of the spectrum, because there's a lot that goes into it. But deciding that you want to do it, there's a few things that you have to do. First of all, in Harrisburg City, our requirement, I believe, is just high school diploma is all that's necessary at this point. Now, if you have more, I think we have GED. You can have a GED as well. High school or your GED. If you have college credits, that's great, but it's not required. One of the biggest things about this job in policing, the biggest and the best asset you can have as a police officer is one little thing, and we throw it around all the time. It's called common sense. If you have common sense, you can do this job. It's a great job to do. So you make a decision that that's what you want to do. If you're going to go the college route, which is recommended, you should increase your education as you go. You would take like criminal justice. Is usually the field that you can take. Yep.
Hey, sir, is it true that you can be an officer with a GED?
Yes.
And what is it?
Yes.
Isn't it all over? I heard there's a bunch of, I lived a lot of places.
It depends. Some departments have different requirements to make that as a patrol officer, the entry level to get in. There may be different requirements. Case in point, to be a probation officer, you have to have a bachelor's degree. But to be a police officer, GED, high school diploma. We encourage you to have more.
So it is true that you can be an officer with a GED,
yeah.
And what is it, 2 weeks in the academy?
Well, the academy is about 6 months right now.
6 months.
Yeah. And that's part of, as I was going through to tell you, so one of the other pieces that you do is you decide to do it. Yeah, we do testing that you have to do. So you have to have the age, and I believe our age right now is you have to be 20 and a half to start as a police officer. And why I say 20 and a half, I know usually young people use halves in their age. And I guess when you get a little older, a lot older, you might use halves too. But the half is that by the time you graduate from the academy, you have to be 21 years old. And that's just because of some of the laws, possession of a firearm, these type of different things, and that's kind of where the age thing comes into it. But you go to, if you have the age, you go to the police academy, you take a test, and there's some physical requirements that you have to get in. One of the things we use the municipal police officers for Pennsylvania is called MOPEC. So you have to be, all police officers in Pennsylvania have to be MOPEC certified. So that's basically your certification to be a police officer. So the police academy brings you up to MOPEC standards is what it's called. So you would test the physical testing, which is a run. You have to do some sit-ups, push-ups, all of that good stuff. The chief is actually in charge of the police academy, the physical fitness for the police academy. So our chief runs the academy for this area. You also have to do what's called, you have to pass a test called a Nelson-Denny test. Mm-hmm. And that's basically your equivalency of reading and writing. how you understand and how you read and write. So I think it's at, is it a 6th grade? 9th grade. It's at a 9th grade level. So as long as you can read and comprehend at a 9th grade level, you're past the preliminary pieces of becoming a police officer. You go into the academy, they set some standards, you have to take a lot of schooling. So if schooling's not really your thing, you kind of have to prepare yourself that there is a physical piece to being a police officer, and there's a mental piece because there is some schooling. You have to understand the law. You have to understand how to apply the law. You have to understand first aid. There's a whole bunch of little pieces that we teach through that. But that happens in the 6-month period that you're at training. Once you successfully pass that, then in our department, we hire before you go most of the time. But if you don't get picked up by a police department, you can put yourself through a police academy, as you're just not picked up by a department. And once you graduate, you can apply at police departments and say, I have my police certification. All I need is to be hired by a department at that point. Am I talking loud enough? You do that piece. You get through the academy. You take all your tests, and there's tests in different modules, whether it's the vehicle code, understanding the vehicle law, crimes code, which is the laws that we enforce in Pennsylvania, whether it be harassments or assaults, or it's the whole gambit, up and down the crimes code, which is Title 18 for Pennsylvania, and Title 75 for the vehicle code. And then, like I said, you have to learn, now we're tasked with different things. You have to have a mental health piece that you have to understand. You have to understand first aid. And that's the basic piece of the education. That's what gets you started. Once you get to your police department, we do in-house training where you learn that. You also have to learn how to use firearms while you're at the academy and throughout your career. You always have to practice your proficiency with firearms. You have to learn how to shoot. You have to learn how to defend yourself. You have to learn how to do all of the pieces of becoming a police officer. There's a whole host of pieces. But that's pretty much the start of it. Once you get through the police academy, you begin your career from there. And as long as you're in Pennsylvania, you only have to go to the police academy the one time and successfully pass. You can move between police departments and be hired, and you don't have to go to the police academy again. But what we do is every year we have to recertify with changes in the law. As the laws change, they have what's called for us as updates. So once a year, every police officer has to go to, it's like a 2 or 3 day, it's online actually now. You can probably do it in one day online. But you have to take all of these courses that just say the laws have changed here, here, and here, and you just have to understand them. And that's pretty much the beginning part of becoming a police officer.
Okay, can we start with what we have written down? We had some issues that we wanted to talk about, see if you could change any of them.
Ooh, issues.
Yeah. Okay.
And for the sake of time, we have about 6-7 minutes before the next group comes in, but go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so they want to know, the main one is the, what plans do you guys have to change the crime rate? As a community, yeah, altogether, like, what steps are you guys taking to try and, like, reduce the crime rate in Harrisburg?
That's a very good question, and the answers could be long. But I will make it short. What we've done here is that we've engaged the public, because I understand, that there is a disconnect between police and, like, citizens. So we collaborated with Kevin Dolphin, Breaking the Chains, the Y, the PAL, and other agencies like that. A lot of times citizens will interact better with people, especially young men. They will interact with other males who's been through the system, who can tell them the do's and the don'ts, and different things like that. I have David over here. He engages with different crime watch groups. We used to have an open dialogue. And my offices are open 24/7. Everybody in the city basically has my cell phone number. And, we are people-friendly, people just feel comfortable coming to us. A couple months ago in the paper, they were talking about, how people just come down to my office and just surrender to us and different things like that. I think, that the disconnect between the police and the people have been years ago, when the police used to feel that there's them and there's us. Well, our philosophy is totally different. We're all in the same thing together. Your problem is my problem. And if I can take care of your wants and your needs and your problems, then we don't have problems. You know, we're in this here, you know, for the people. You know, that's just part of the reason, that's just part of the way that, you know, we're interacting with the public to reduce the crime rate. And right now, the crime rate is at one of the absolute lowest it has ever been before in the city. Yes, dear.
I actually want to hear from all three of y'all.
Oh.
You may have one.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
before you-
and I can touch on what the
Wait.
chief is saying. One of the other pieces that we talk about as far as the crime, we have a disconnect as far as what's reported to us and what's not. Sometimes people just don't want to talk to the police because they don't trust the police. And a big piece with that becomes, I'm sorry, did I answer you wrong?
No. I actually had a statement.
Oh.
Wouldn't building a relationship with the community actually help a lot more? Like,
It does, and that's where I'm getting ready to,
Oh, okay.
to head in that direction for you. I know you guys are kind of on a
Yeah.
time frame here. One of the things that the chief has talked about before and we're trying to push out is that it starts with respect for everyone respecting each other. And that's one of our big pieces that, and I'm just going to use you two as an example. If you two don't respect each other, it pushes out. And the hard part for policing sometimes becomes if you don't care enough about yourself and you don't care about your fellow man, it's harder for us to bring the law perspective into you. We interpret the law and we enforce the law, but it has to start with a mutual respect for each other. People in this community have to learn how to respect each other, number one, and it starts at the smallest level. Once you get the respect there, then we can push it out to a bigger level. The majority of police officers, and I don't say all because all would be not true, because there are people that fall through the cracks that probably shouldn't be police officers. But the majority of police officers do believe, and we do believe in communities, and we do believe that the police are not the answer to all your questions or to solve all your problems. The discussion and the part has to start with you guys first. You have to understand what's needed and how it's needed. We're just there to help you get there. But a lot of the responsibility is put sometimes on the police, like, well, they're not doing this, call the police. They're not doing that, call the police. And our job function has changed from just crime fighting to now we have to know a whole bunch of other disciplines to just bring people in because people rely on the police for everything. What we're doing is we're starting with education, like you guys are doing here now. We're starting the open dialogue. We want to foster that and build the trust back so that people can come to us and understand, hey, this is what our problems are in my neighborhood, which may be different in your neighborhood, which may be different in your neighborhood. So we have to understand everyone's problems and figure out how we fix them all the fairest way. I hope that answered some questions.
I have a question real quick. I wanted to know, like, because we were in a house, okay, me, him, and I was pregnant at the time. It's a domestic violence case. We called the cops, and cops didn't show up for, like, I don't even think they showed up at all, to be honest. I mean, a lot of the times you guys don't show up and things happen. Like, how are you guys trying to prevent that from happening? Like,
He can answer that
the
to a
response
certain
time
extent, and then I
be-
would have to answer from a different level.
okay.
I'm not quite sure what question you're trying to.
Like, okay, the response time, they never showed up.
Just the response time?
Yeah,
for
like,
a
I hear a
police
lot of people talk about domestic violence cases that the cops just don't show up anymore. And, I mean, I figured it was because a lot of girls don't press the charges on their boyfriend or stuff, but, I mean,
never
for
know
the
the severity
people
of the
that
situation.
do,
Before we get into that, I mean, that has nothing to do with it, whether.
the response times?
No, whether the female wants to press charges or not.
That doesn't.
That's the least of my concern.
Okay,
I'm always trying to get there as fast as I can to make sure the situation isn't too volatile and address it as it needs to be addressed at that time. You know, every matter gets addressed a little bit different. As far as response time,
yeah.
I don't want to sit here and make excuses,
Mhm.
but sometimes we do get backed up on things.
Okay.
And,
That's mine.
yeah,
I can touch on that piece, but you keep going. I can touch on
we get
those
backed
ones.
up on things. I mean, if something happens, we have a shooting or a homicide,
Mhm.
we get backed up quite a bit. And
That
our
would
response
become a
time.
first priority. of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, our first priority is that person that's injured that's laying on the street or wherever they're at
Mhm.
and controlling that crime scene. And that can take a lot of people sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it can take our whole police force, depending on what the location of that crime
Right,
scene is.
yeah.
Some days are busier than others, but
I think you hit it most, and understand from a perspective, most people think that the police have an infinite amount of police officers working. And we prioritize calls is basically how it comes. It comes in a priority stacking. So we don't dispatch our own anymore, so there's another party involved. So when you call the police, you call the county. Even though you may be sitting at the police station, when you call, it goes out to the county, out to Steelton, and then it comes back to the city to say, hey, you have somebody sitting out in the front. But what we do is we go by a priority call ranking. So in progress assaults where you have victims, you have high volatile crimes, they rank up at the top. Then you may have a harassment, you may have this, you may have that. But when your call comes in, if a call more serious comes in, they jump them.
So the system does it automatically?
We don't prioritize them per se. The dispatchers, as the calls funnel in, they put them in order as to what calls are coming in. So when he touches on this, you're at a domestic, or I'm having an argument with somebody, I need the police here right now. Okay, on the other side of the city, we have a shooting with a victim. And then we have a robbery where the person was shot. And then we may have, and I'm being very extreme here, but I'm just putting it in an understanding of, as the calls come in, that's how the services get moved around. So they still sit there, and it may take officers time to get it, but they don't disappear from the screen. So what you may have is 3 or 4 hours later, an officer shows up. Well, everything's done by then. People have left. Well, I needed you here. You weren't here now. But it's not necessarily the officer's fault. It's the calls that are waiting is how it falls in. And it's prioritized. So how that messes us up, people understand that. And every call that we get now is, he's got a gun. So no matter how serious they change our seriousness, and it may not necessarily be that the person had the gun, but they tell us that to get us there quicker, where now we got pulled away from something more serious because this person needed us right now. So that's how that confusion gets there.
So, a person calls 911. This person got a gun. Y'all come out to the rescue, and this person reaching in his pocket. It might be important. Y'all shoot him. Bang. Well, what happens to the caller then? Is he held responsible?
Well, yes. The caller is always, there's 2 parts to investigating how this happens. When you call in, the information from the person that calls in, we get that information. There's a follow-up piece to it. But priority-wise, if you get a call, and we get a lot of calls like that, there's a man with a gun doing this, that, and that. What happens then is the officer relies back on their training. And your training for most officers are, where most officers get a little nervous and not feeling right, is when we can't see hands. Because if I can't see your hand and I can't get your intentions or what you're doing, that's when we get hurt, when we can't see hands. So what most people don't realize, and it's usually for most youth, they don't realize, I may put my hands in my pocket all the time. That's why you always hear officers say, let me see your hands. Because what's going to hurt us are the hands.
Officers aren't, held accountable for theft, are they?
For theft?
For theft.
Officers are held accountable just like anyone else. If an officer does a crime, commits a crime, an officer is arrested and charged.
That's liberty, right? Equal to all, right?
Everyone is equal. Now, and understand where I'm going with this. I believe in my profession, because this is my chosen profession, that I should hold myself to a higher standard. I should be held higher accountable for my actions as a police officer. And that's me, and I think most of the officers that do that job is, I respect the law, I respect what I do, and that the power that I am entrusted in by doing this job, I should be held higher, to a higher standard. I shouldn't be committing crime. I shouldn't be breaking laws. No, and if I do, which I won't, I should be held accountable for them.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming down here. If you have any questions, write them down. I promise you that if you want to engage us some more, just let Dave know, and we'll be happy to come to wherever you are so we can have real conversation. There is no dumb question. There is no stupid question. Just ask questions and just ask us anything. And if we don't have the answer for you, we will try to get the answer for you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.